Welcome to Too Old, Too New, the music discovery podcast that brings you something old, something new, something Nate, something Bruce. I'm Nate Runkle, host of the Yo, That's My Jawn podcast, and with me, as always, is my good friend Bruce Warren from WXPN.
Howdy.
The premise of this show is simple. Each week, we bring you two songs apiece. One new song that has been metaphorically spinning our turntable platters, and one old song that we believe absolutely still matters. What's going on, my friend?
Good work. You are going on. You are going on.
I try.
Hey, I heard you were at this podcast thing. You went to a podcast conference of some sort?
I did. I went to Podcast Movement, and it was down in D.C. It was a 3-day thing, I think. I only went for 1 day. I drove down for it, made a day trip of it, and I learned some stuff. But I got to tell you, like, there is nothing more disheartening than being surrounded by a bunch of business types, because that's really what most of the people doing podcasts there are all people trying to sell something.
Okay.
So like everybody's like seminar started off like I was going to learn something, and then turned into, and if you take my course, it's like, okay, great, thank you.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
But we learned some new things there. I learned a lot about how video and YouTube is kind of what's kind of dominating the conversation in podcasting right now. So if you see our YouTube output, there's a new thing to it: new thumbnails.
All right,
because
that's beautiful.
They say faces. You need faces making dumb faces, and I have the dumbest face in the world, so we're in luck.
They were a good band. So any conversation around like the live podcasting ecosystem?
No, but it's something that like they so like all of those things were kind of recorded and all, and just the kind of like being able to do it and then have an audience to throw a Q&A to kind of gives a more interactive feel to the podcast itself.
Right.
So like it feels like it's ripe, and like I think it's definitely something to see more of in the future.
Well, I wasn't thinking about my angle, quite selfishly, Nate, was possibly the two of us getting a fucking agent and taking our show on the road.
I'm ready.
Right?
Like the stage needs us. I think we would pack the house personally.
Right? You could play a song in there, little, right? We do a whole little entertainment thing. We figure it out.
I mean, like, we could bring back the old Martin and Lewis Roadshow.
Okay, here we go. All right, it's a thought. Meanwhile, we're here to talk about a couple old jams and a couple new jams as we segue into the old portion today.
That's a beautiful segue, my friend. I'll get started.
Right.
So my choice today, I just got back from Colorado, and on the flight out there, I watched one of my favorite TV shows of all time, which is The Adventures of Pete and Pete. It's an old Nickelodeon show from the 90s starring Michael C. Morona as the Big Pete and Danny Tamborelli as Little Pete. Shout out to Danny, who is actually a WXPN listener.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
all
and
right.
a fan.
Okay.
So the show was absolutely brilliant. It's about two brothers, and it's kind of surrealistic, and it had a lot of musical guest stars. Iggy Pop played a character. David Johansen was in there. Marshall Crenshaw, Sid Shaw. Bunch of people. Michael Stipe was in an episode. Kate Pearson from the B-52s. But one of the things that I love most about The Adventures of Pete and Pete is the original soundtrack, which was by a band called Polaris, who was actually Mark Mulcahy's Miracle Legion, just minus one member. So It was them set up as a trio. And the song I picked from that today is from my favorite episode of the show called Hard Days Pete. And it's when Little Pete discovers that he has a favorite song, because he never had a favorite song, and he didn't understand it, and he hated music. And then one day he was late to school, and he comes across this garage where there's this band playing, and the band, surprisingly, is Polaris. And they play this song, Summerbaby, and he becomes addicted to it, but he doesn't know the name of it, and he doesn't know how to find it. So he starts his own band, the Blowholes, with Marshall Crenshaw and Sid Shaw, and recreates the song so that he can remember how the song goes and enjoy it. And it's just a beautiful love letter to music, and finding your favorite song and loving it, and then wanting to create something like that for other people to enjoy. It's incredible. And the song is called Summerbaby, and let's listen to a little right now. The brilliant jangly sounds of Mark Mulcahy.
And it's interesting. First, great song. I was a huge fan of Miracle Legion back in the day, and there isn't enough reverence for Miracle Legion. And I think you use the word jangly, and I think about like when I first started at XBN, I was a volunteer DJ, and I was on overnight. And when Miracle Legion's EP came out, the first EP, The Backyard, it was reduced to like, oh, they sound too much like jangly REM, or you really got into The Backyard, which was an amazing EP. But they kind of, Mark Mulcahy is an unbelievable singer and songwriter, and I'm glad you kind of brought his name up, because I don't think, like looking back, I don't think that Mark and their work, Miracle Legion's work, gets enough credit. Very underrated, without a doubt.
For sure. I'll give you two things that I don't know if you know about. One, he released 2 EPs this year. One of them, the Tinsler Volume 1, is him doing covers, and he covers Adrian Lenker, and he covers Mitski, and it's incredible. Him doing My Love, Mine, All Mine is absolutely a banger.
Wow.
And very easily could have been my new, but
wow.
I didn't. And the other thing, I only found this out today. I didn't know about it. I don't know if you knew about it. 2017, I think, there's a tribute album that was released to Mark Mulcahy.
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
With The National doing Ashamed of the Story I Told, which is a Polaris song. Tom York's on there, Michael Stipe. Mm-hmm. I listened to it for the first time today, and I was blown away that somehow I missed it.
Yeah. So good choice, really good, great choice. What
do you got for something old this week?
Well, it's funny because like my something old, which is a song called "Will You Stay Tonight" by the British band Comsat Angels, kind of comes around. It was released around the same time, I think, a little bit later for Polaris. But hey, listen, England is always delivered some unbelievable musical bands. So Nate, when you think of great music scenes in England, what comes to mind?
Well, it's got to be like Manchester,
right?
And yeah,
Manchester, right? Liverpool, right?
Sure.
Over the years. But did you know that over the years, Sheffield, England has produced some of the great rock and roll bands?
I did not.
Let me give you a list here of bands from Sheffield, England. All right. Ever hear of Human League?
Hell yes.
Pulp?
Yes.
Arctic Monkeys?
Oh, of course.
Did you know that Def fucking Leppard were from Sheffield?
I did not. That's incredible. Yeah, that's a banger of a town.
Okay. Did you know that the Thompson twins were from Sheffield?
I did not.
There you go. I got my research all fucking lined up here. Anyway, the Comsat Angels also were from Sheffield. And they were, I guess, they came around, I guess, the late 1979. They released their debut that year. In 1982, the first name of the band is Comsat, Comsat. And some of you may recognize that name, that word, as being sort of related to a communications company. And in 1982, they were actually sued by a company here in the States. They were called the Communications Satellite Corporation, to stop using the name Comsat, even though the band took their name from a short story that was written by J.G. Ballard. But their debut album, sort of like a lot of people who sort of grew up in that era of new wave, post-punk, when it was just starting to happen, like this was the band that was supposed to sort of fill in the gap that was closed by Joy Division, because there's a ominous feel to it, but still very melodic, still very dark. And this song was always one of my favorite songs by them. Not their biggest, most well-known song, but let's listen to it right now. It's called "Will You Stay Tonight," and it's by the Comsat Angels. So both, the roots of your something old today, Polaris, started in the early 80s. And the roots of my something old today started in the late 70s, early 80s. So there's definitely a nice little overlap there. That's Comsat Angels with Will You Stay Tonight.
Very nice. And the guitar tone, absolutely just killer.
Yeah.
Just
now,
just to,
I will point out also, I know you wrote this down in your notes, but there's very little Comsat Angels music available on any of the streaming services, but almost all their stuff is up on YouTube.
On YouTube, yes.
Check it out.
Very cool. Very cool. For something new, I mentioned that I was in Colorado. I was in Colorado for the Brandi Carlile show at Red Rocks, featuring the Colorado Symphony Orchestra. And it was without a doubt one of the most amazing shows I've ever experienced in my life. And so I definitely wanted to come with something. But, you know, Brandi, while she said she's about to start working on the next album, didn't really have a new song. I had thought about doing the duet she did with Hozier.
Right.
Which is one of my contenders for Song of the Year. It absolutely blows my mind how phenomenal that song is. But I wanted to showcase a portion of Brandi Carlile that I feel like is somewhat underrated, and that's the Hanseroth twins. Phil and Tim Hanseroth, who are a part of the triumvirate that gives you what we all love about Brandi Carlile. And they released an album this year called Vera. It's them. It's all them, and it's absolutely incredible. I read a little bit about how the project came about, which was they tracked "Remember Me," which was the lead single off of it, and actually they performed it with the Colorado Symphony Orchestra. I'll never be able to listen to it again and have it be as amazing as that. But anyway, so they tracked "Remember Me." They sent it to Greg Nadel, at Elektra, the A&R guy, and within 15 minutes he called them back and said, "Can you get us an album in a month? We want to release this in the summer." And so they, fast tracked the album and put it together. It's absolutely incredible. And the song that I picked today is "I'll Always Know I Do." Because Brandi's singing background on it, production credits. Dave McKay plays organ on it, who was also there performing as a guest of Brandi, and it's just a beautiful song. So let me hit a little "I'll Always Know I Do" by the Hanseroth twins. God damn, that blood harmony is so good, isn't it? But man, what an album! And again, like they opened the show, and just sounded absolutely incredible. One of the things I'll also point out that people should check out is they do a cover of Erasure's "Little Respect" that is absolutely incredible. So definitely take a look at that.
Yeah, it's a great record, and I love those guys. Phil and Tim are the best. I know they're really hard to tell apart, but if you've ever so first of all, they're always in the same position when you're looking at the stage when they're playing, and when you see them and meet them outside of a concert, they also stand the same way. They never switch places. And that's how I know, well, occasionally they do, but that's how I can tell the difference between two of them.
Between who? So real funny story about twins real quick is I went to high school with these two twins, Amy and Jamie Butler, and Amy and I were always friends, and Jamie was cool too or whatever, and we graduated one day, and I was out at a bar and I was hanging out, and one of them was there and we're drinking, and she goes, "Do you know which one I am?" And I go, "Of course I do. You're Amy." And she goes, "How do you know I'm Amy?" And I said, "Because Jamie was always a bitch to me." And guess who it was? It was Jamie. I was wrong.
Oh my goodness. Oh man. Boom.
Yeah. So, I'm not great at telling twins apart, is what I'm getting at.
You got the pie in the face, man. Eating the pie.
Exactly.
Eating the pie.
So what kind of new stuff you got for us today?
But let me stay with the hands.
Let
me stay with Phil and Tim for a second. You know why I love this record? I've listened to it a lot. I grew up in the 70s. I'm a sucker for the Laurel Canyon sound, the singer-songwriter thing. It's part of my, DNA. And I know for a fact that Brandi and the twins are huge fans of the band Bread. Do you remember the band Bread?
For sure, yeah.
Right? I want to make it with you. Like, those soft pop, great harmonies. And they're also big fans of the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, Gordon Lightfoot. Gordon Lightfoot. And, I hear like elements of all that stuff in their music, but they don't they wear their influences on their sleeve, but they turn it into really fresh sounding songs. And that's why I love this record so much. It's just a beautiful record in the genre, you know.
For sure, definitely. I'm actually kind of shocked that like people aren't talking about it more, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because like it is incredibly strong.
Yeah. So we're gonna go completely in an opposite direction here. Last week, the subject of a new band came up in the XPN offices called The Dare. And I was familiar with Girls, like their first big song. But someone said, like, you know, they want to be too much like Oasis. And I was like, what do you mean? I don't remember the Oasis touch points, right? I don't remember that. So I decided to go and actually listen to the full album. It's called What's Wrong with New York. That's the name of the Dare album, D-A-R-E. The Dare is actually one person, a guy named Harrison Patrick Smith from Los Angeles. And I will tell you that their album is the best 27-minute album I have heard this year. And like, I want to bring that up, and it might actually be one of my favorite albums of the year so far. The reason why I bring up the fact that it's 27 minutes, 10 songs, 27 minutes, is that before you know it, you're in and out, and you just want to listen to it again. And when I put it on last weekend, I listened to the album 3 times in a row, and it just blew my mind. What is it, The Dare, if you're not familiar? Well, I guess I want to say it's sort of like a blending of like electro pop and rock and roll. It's this weird melding. I will use the RIYL lingo here. It's this weird melding of like LCD Sound System and the Strokes. And, you know, there's a new band called Yard Act that sort of like Harrison does this singy, spoken wordy thing. But they also, in a really weird way, remind me of Cake. There's a lot of attitude. There's very tight grooves. There's a lot of snark. There's a lot of boasting and a lot of arrogance. And I fucking love it, right? I fucking love it. So let's check this song out. It's called I Destroy Disco. He wants to destroy disco. That is The Dare and I Destroy Disco. And you know what? Not only do I hear elements of Cake, which is, you know, kind of weird, but I also, you know, if I could ever clean this song up, if they ever give me a version of this that I can actually play on the radio, I'm going to segue into Looking for the Perfect Beat by Africa Bambaataa and Soul Sonic 4. So there you go. It's got that New York fucking electro funk, whatever the fuck you want to call it thing, so going on, and I am just in love with this record.
I immediately wrote down in my list this album to check out because I missed it. I didn't know it came out this week. And when you sent this song through, I was like, I definitely got to check it out. And then now that you're telling me it's only 27 minutes long, that's like a gift to me, because that's about how long my attention lasts before I start looking at squirrels. But man, what a rip! This is, and if you need a clean version, I might be able to bust out my Serato and clean one up for you.
All right, okay, I may take you up on that. Good stuff. Good stuff.
It's awesome. These songs, of course, will be on the playlist on Spotify. You can check them all out. Also, check out the YouTube channel as we are trying to get the videos up. I'm still missing episode 18, and I don't know why. The video is sitting on my hard drive. I just got to edit it. But everything's up to date on there. Of course, you can always follow us on the socials. I'm at Yo That's My Jawn on everything. Bruce is at Some Velvet Blog on everything. You can hear Bruce every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WXPN. You can hear me normally on Why Not Radio on Mondays from 5 to 8, and also the Yo That's My Jawn podcast, which is up every other week. And this week, if you are in the Phoenixville area, Friday, whatever that date is, the 13th. Oh, Friday the 13th. Hey. Friday the 13th, if you're in the Phoenixville area, I will be playing at Hares Hill Brewery, which is my first gig in over a month. So
all right.
We'll see how that goes from 6 to 9. So that'll be a little bit of fun. Of course, thank you guys for following, liking, subscribing, doing all of that cool stuff that you do. And we love bringing you some music. So I'm glad you guys are enjoying it. And Bruce, man, We did it again. We're so good at this.
I'm telling you, man. Well, where's that agent? Let's get that agent. Come on.
We gotta get that road show. We gotta talk to whoever the Kelsey's agent is. We could be the next Kelsey. That's it.
Nah, probably not, but that's okay.
Probably not.
That's all right. It's something, goals, man, goals. You need fucking goals, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
All right, man.
Well, again, I will
Peace.
catch you next time.
Yeah.